Hi, everyone. Glad to be on with you all today. Today, we're just hopping on to talk about one of the best parts about working at Real Financial, and that is our client experience. And specifically, one of the tools that we use for our client experience is the financial scoring analysis tool. And this came to be because of our chief strategy officer, who's right next to me. His name's James Catledge. Okay, he's had a historic career in the financial services space with one company. Correct me on these numbers. One company, he's done 59 million in commissions. In total gross commissions, he's done 120 million. And on top of that, he's built a financial services business with over 8,000 associates. So glad to be on with you today, James. And he really runs this ship for us.
Good to be here.
Thank you. Yeah. But yeah, we just wanted to hop in and talk about scoring, financial scoring analysis, our software. So briefly, I just wanted to ask you, what is a financial score?
Great question. I love the financial scoring concept for a couple of reasons. Building a team is hard. And when you're building a team, you're looking for every angle possible, every system tool available. You think about the McDonald's franchise system. They can't get to where they are without a system.
Mm-hmm.
And most successful businesses require a system. I found in, frankly, training 8,000 agents, one of my deficiencies, the thing I struggled with the most was how do I take what's in my head and get it to that newest recruit?
Mm-hmm.
And financial scoring does that for us here at Real Financial.
Yeah.
Financial score is designed to give the client a feeling numerically on where they stand in retirement readiness and tax efficiency. It's basically a needs analysis. Over the years, all financial service advisors who succeed end up with a needs analysis. It's their process by which they meet with the client, ask questions, and hopefully diagnose what the client needs and only sell what the client needs.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I realized over the years that with technology and AI and all these, frankly, these important tools that were coming into our space, that would be really important to have a tool that allowed the newest agent to have the same exact opportunity as an experienced agent like myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so financial scoring, we went and negotiated with the financial scoring team. They're located in Salt Lake City. It's a team of engineers who developed an algorithm that allows my 27 questions to be scored for the client. So every question I ask the client, like how much money do you make? What are your debts? How much money do you have in an IRA? How much money's in the bank? Do you have a CD? Do you have any insurance? All the questions we normally ask now have weight attached to them. And with that weight, I can give the client a score. And so as we go through the 27 questions, the score gets spooled up in real time off to the right side of the answer. And so at the end of the interview, let's say it's 20 minutes that you're meeting with the client, they have a score, a financial score that tells them on a score of 0 to 100 whether they're retirement ready, whether they're tax efficient, and what changes should be made. It's kind of a red flag moment, as opposed to me needing to know so much about every angle of finance that I just know what's a red flag and what's not. I may not have that kind of experience if I'm newly licensed. And so the financial scoring tool makes me experienced the day I begin to use it.
Yeah, make sure you ask every question that's important to being able to make a quality recommendation.
Right.
Yeah.
I found, in the years when I was coming up, learning the business and trying to meet with clients and try to do two things, be credible and really give them the right advice. I mean, I was bothered sometimes that I would leave an appointment knowing I did not know.
Mm-hmm.
And that insecurity forced me to kind of solve this problem. And the problem was I needed credibility and I needed to really make the right recommendation. And without scoring in those 27 questions, I was always going to fall short because when I'm meeting with a client, there's a lot going on. I'm trying to establish trust. I'm trying to build a relationship. I'm trying to capture the data necessary to make the right recommendation. And more than anything, I want them to let me come back and make the recommendation. I want to have an appointment too. And I'm kind of focused on building that rapport while capturing data. And I find this, for whatever reason, clients are just not good with money. Psychologically, how money works is not a natural skill that most clients possess. I find that a lot of people have weird feelings and notions about money that aren't based in math.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I can go through these questions, I don't have to expose some odd feeling about money. I can learn it as I just ask the questions.
And it simplifies it for them too.
It totally. They end up revealing to me as I go through my needs analysis. That's what financial scoring is. As I go through the needs analysis, they end up revealing to me that they've lost money before, that they were in a bad deal, that something didn't work out, that they don't trust the government. They have a closet full of gold. All these weird notions that may come to the surface as I just go through the questions, where I may not know how to get that out of them without these questions.
Yeah, and for someone also, for you all listening, for someone that's brand new, it also allows them to see the score as well and to understand where areas of opportunity might lie. Even though they're brand new and just getting into this business, they can see where the deficiencies are. Okay, John and Mary are sitting at like a 49 out of 100 on debt to income subscore, right? Or they're sitting just kind of fair at like a 75 on investment subscore. There's an opportunity there.
Right.
I'm going to get with my team leader and figure out what those recommendations might look like, as opposed to just saying, "Oh, they said they're good to go," right? They told me that they don't have any improvement. The plan's all set up, right?
Yeah, and a lot of people do have a false notion about what they possess and how it will work in the end. I find this quite a bit when I still meet with clients. When I meet with a client and they tell me that they think they're set as far as their savings pattern and what they're putting away in their 401k and what they're doing in their bank account, well, the scoring allows me to run the numbers. Yeah. I can go to the finish line in advance. And AI is bolted on. It's like a co-pilot sitting there with the scoring. So if I'm doing the interview with you and I'm asking the 27 questions, I've got AI sitting in the co-pilot seat with me that's hearing the answers. It's hearing the score tied to that answer. And so when we get to the end and I give you your score 78, let's say, the AI now wants to get in the game with us. And all I've got to do is enter in the query box in the AI that's sitting right on board with financial scoring any question I want to ask it. And it knows your score, it knows your answer, it knows the client. And so we now have got AI in the appointment with us, and it knows everything the client just said. So it's in a position to really not make generic recommendations, but real customized solutions based on what it just heard.
Yeah, one thing I love that we always bring up is we compare it oftentimes to a credit score. And people know where they stand with their credit, with their borrowing power, because they know 850 is at like the top, and they know they're at a 650.
That's right.
Financial scoring, same type of deal. Someone can see where they stack up in the marketplace.
Yes.
So even though they came into the conversation, into the appointment thinking they had an amazing plan, now they're starting to realize, talking with James or any of you all, that, there's some opportunities here, right?
You're right.
I might be affected by some of these enemies of money.
Yeah, credit, it's funny. Credit score, isn't it strange how this works? Credit score is telling us what our ability or capacity to borrow or to get in debt is, which for whatever reason, that's become a number everybody knows. We all know
and it's a status symbol.
Yeah, and it's strange. I mean, the idea that somehow we could be convinced by the financial industry that how much money we borrow is a more important number than how wealthy we become.
Right.
Financial scoring is about determining your financial fitness. It's about determining not how much you can borrow or how much debt you could get in. It's about whether you're ready or not for retirement. Are you doing what it takes to prepare to retire? And it's going to deal with your tax efficiency. It's going to deal with your risk analysis. It's going to deal with whether you're overpaying commissions, feeds, loads, all these things that are enemies of accumulating wealth. That's what financial scoring is all about.
Yeah, and that's one thing we talked about recently, is that a lot of folks only think about risk. They only assess their level of risk when there's a lot more enemies of money. There's 6 that we normally like to uncover and find opportunities for folks to protect against. It's time, taxes, excessive fees, losses, unforeseen events, and inflation. And a lot of folks and a lot of other financial firms out there only focus on minimizing risk.
Yes.
That's all they focus on.
Yeah, there's even software designed just to deal with risk. I think Riskalyze is the name of a very popular piece of software that brokers use to determine the risk analysis of a client. When in reality, what about the taxes?
The taxes are huge, yeah.
Yeah, what about the inflation? I mean, these are really big factors that scoring deals with. It's going to deal with the risk. It's going to deal with the fees and the loads. It's going to deal with all 6 of those items. It's going to deal with it fast. So the agent who may be brand new doesn't have to worry about memorizing all this stuff.
Yeah,
Because
which
the
is huge.
scoring engine knows these answers.
Yeah, and I wanted to bring this back just for context a little bit because you've been in this business for 30 years. You know, I'm a little bit younger, so we have access to AI. We have access to just technology getting brand new into this business. And for anybody watching who's brand new, you all have access to this tool as well.
Right.
However, it wasn't always like that for you, right? You guys had to do a lot of paper applications. You had to send it by fax, by mail, right? You had to wait to see in the mail if they were approved or not, right?
Yes.
Et cetera, et cetera. But so my point is you didn't always use this tool.
No way.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, and over time, by just being in the field, you learned all the questions that we need to ask to be able to make quality recommendations.
Yeah.
And so I want to ask, what were some pitfalls you ran into or issues or challenges you ran into being able to scale your business without everybody having the same toolbox you did?
It's a problem today in the industry. If they're not using financial scoring, I really don't know how they're accomplishing the scalability and having the client experience be predictable at all. I don't know if they can do it that way. I can tell you, having worked with some of the premier companies that are in place today, the name brands, the big boys that are out there today, I helped build some of those companies. And the challenge we faced, and I think they still face it today, is how do I train the newest person to actually know the questions to ask and not wing it and not try to silver tongue it and not try to just slam like a salesperson would some product into the hands of maybe a senior citizen that's not a fit.
Yeah.
See, I don't know how you prevent that if you're not using a scoring analysis. See, the scoring neutralizes that possibility and puts the recommendations in the hands of AI as opposed to a brand new agent.
Yeah, and you can't progress through the actual score unless you answer all those questions. So you have to ask those.
That's right.
And you bring up a great point because I was in this business prior to ever using financial scoring. And one of the issues I ran into is even when I was experienced and knew a lot of the questions to ask, sometimes, you know, because it wasn't systematized,
right,
I would forget to ask a really important question.
Yeah.
Hey, I just need to reach back out. How many years young are you? Right.
Yeah, that's right.
How much, what's your expenses, right?
Right.
And I also used a financial basically questionnaire, right? Needs analysis. Everybody kind of used that, right? But the problem I ran into is I would send it to a client and then say, hey, fill this out on some of your own time. And also it was asking not just 27, maybe 2,700
What's your utility bill?
Right? What's your utility bill? What's your Netflix? What's your Disney Plus?
Yeah.
What are you spending on daycare, right?
Right.
We don't really need to know all that.
We don't.
We just need to know what's coming in and what's going out. We don't need to know all the specifics, really.
That's it.
We just need to know what we have to play with, what we have as an opportunity to deploy.
Right.
That's all we really need to know. We don't need to know all that. The other problem that it ran into for that this whole process had for me is I would send it to a client and I wasn't a part of the experience while they were filling it out. Right. So that was an issue of its own. And so, I would book an appointment, a first appointment on a Tuesday. And for you all wondering, we do 2 call closes typically. So I'd book the first appointment, send them the questionnaire. They're interested in one of our 10, 15 services, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I'd send that to them. And then come Thursday when we're supposed to meet up again, guess what? It's not filled out.
No.
It's not filled out. They got to reschedule. Oh, it's just a lot of information, Chris. It's just going to take me some time. I got to look all this up. I got to figure out my budget. I can't figure out how to use Excel. I got to download it. I got to print it out. All these issues arise. But the point is, it delayed commissions. It delayed the sales process, not only for me, but also even worse, new folks. What's it going to do to them?
Yeah.
And they do know that, or I actually do know how to ask mainly all the questions that we use with financial scoring. However, someone that's brand new that's using just a financial questionnaire off the street is going to have major problems with that.
Sure.
Because I did too.
Yeah.
Right. So financial scoring resolves all that.
It does.
And allows you to obtain the data immediately and move to the second appointment. And then that way you're not waiting on them to fill it out and you're a part of that whole experience and addressing why it's important to ask these questions, right?
That's right.
Why this is actually critical to being able to understand how these services that you're interested in could actually make an impact and improve on what you're already doing. So I just wanted to share that, just basically.
No, I think that's right. I'll add something to what you're saying there. I think when you hear AI or you hear software tool, immediately for me, I think, uh-oh, I'm already an expert in this space. What in the world would I do with software, and what in the world would I do with AI? And whenever AI's entered every industry we know of, right? AI's everywhere. I just want our agents to understand this simple idea. AI in its purest form is basically making your job easier.
Yeah.
And the software scoring tool at Real Financial Scoring is basically computerizing with a real nice algorithm that you don't have to think about your needs analysis. If you'll just ask the needs analysis questions, it will calculate what the client needs to do next. AI's on board if you're insecure about what to recommend. The AI is right there to give you all the suggested answers that are in compliance with today's financial standards. And it's also in a position to give you the freedom to pick the products. So financial scoring is not going to say, go with Guardian, go with National Life, go with Fidelity Guarantee. What it's going to say is the client needs more tax-advantaged products. The client is overtaxed with their current plan. The client is not saving enough. And then it will give you the exact amount they need to save. So it's going to give you the math that's hard to calculate. It's going to give you the concept recommendation, and that let you work with your mentor to pick the company, to pick the solution that you want to use. So it's not going to box you in. You don't have to worry about this being something that's so heavy-handed that you don't really have your brain engaged here. This was designed to be a tool to help you make more sales. It wasn't designed just to make the recommendation. It was designed to find the money that's usually hidden, that the client didn't think to bring up, and then it's designed to actually make sure the recommendations you make really do suit that client. So don't let AI and software scare you away.
Yeah, no, and it's you bring up an amazing point, because there's some basically math problems that are really difficult to solve that you don't even want to solve. It takes too much time, right?
Right.
So if John and Mary have a 401k, right, and they want to be able to retire with $200,000 a year in income after taxes, they want a lifestyle based on that. Maybe they both have 401ks, and that's where they're sitting right now. I can basically go into the AI tool, plug in all their data, and I can basically say, now, hey, Mary and John, they want to draw $200,000 a year. How much total account value are they realistically going to need to be able to
Live
generate,
like that? Yeah.
to be able to draw $200,000 a year? And it will tell me. And then, I'll plug in, hey, they're contributing XYZ right now. What is the shortfall?
Yes.
And typically it's pretty big.
It's extraordinary.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, and you couldn't do that math. It'd take you a month to do that math.
Yeah, and I don't even if I knew how to, I don't want to do it, right? I don't want to do that.
In microseconds, it's giving you that answer. And if you're sitting with Mary and John and you're able to show that, they can then play along and say, well, wait a minute.
Why is it like that?
And what is inflation assumed here? Well, we've got inflation assumed at 3%. Let's change it. Let's say inflation is worse. Let's say inflation's 4%. Oh, that changed the shortfall. Well, what if your yield on your investments, we did it conservatively at 8%. What if you're able to get 12? Let's see how that changes the dynamic here. What if you saved an extra 100 a month? How does that change the dynamic? So that math can occur in microseconds, live with the client if you wanted to. And together, I think a client today wants to work with a financial advisor who's using AI. If they get a chance to work with you who's got an AI tool, or work with somebody else who is using their head only, I think they're going to go with the guy using the AI.
And also from a psychological sales process, you're not really defeating their plan. The AI tool is defeating their plan.
That's right.
And their AI tool is showing them, hey, based on these numbers, James, we're not going to be able to get there unless you start finding out a way to put an extra $30,000 in your 401k, which can't even happen, right?
That's right.
You can't even fund it that high.
It's limited. Yeah.
So, yeah, I think that's a powerful just
it's a
difference.
Third party at the appointment.
James, that looks cool and all, but this is what we're going to do, right? Instead of it being that, and it's just saying, hey, look, this is basically the math, okay?
Yes.
And these wealth building plans have to pass the math test.
Yes. The math gets to make the decisions when you're using AI, as opposed to your opinion. And we know you're an expert, but maybe they don't quite trust it. They need to do the research. Well, the research showed up at the first appointment.
Right.
It's in the software. The research showed up in the AI tool. We no longer need to say to you, hey, listen, we've covered a lot of ground. My wife and I'll get back to you, which it was code for, I got to check this out. I really don't know what he's talking about.
Yeah.
That's code for, I really am insecure in his recommendation because I have no idea what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But the AI gets to solve this with them as opposed to them feeling like you've been perhaps manipulating or persuading them. They now get to have this discovery experience together.
And especially the people with the big credit scores, right? Those people want to have good scores.
They do.
They do not like having bad scores.
No, if there's scoring occurring, this is what I've realized over the years that we've been using
It's
this.
offensive to them. You know, in a way that's good for you.
Yeah, that's right. If scoring is happening, you want to know yours and you want it to be good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So people want to be scored. Yeah, that's the other thing. Appointments are easier if you've got this tool. People want to be scored. There's no commitment to making a transaction. There's no commitment to doing financial planning with you. Let's just get your score.
Yeah. And it really is just that simple. When I first started using this tool, I was like, I don't know if people like
how do I bring
are really
it up?
just gonna bite on something like that. They do.
They
do.
Say,
hey, have you ever had a financial score before?
Have you got your score done?
I don't even know what that is. Well, it just allows you to understand your retirement readiness, tax efficiency. It takes 5-10 minutes, assesses 48 different financial metrics, and we're out, right?
Yeah.
And
you'll know where you're at.
Yeah, and people want to know. And it's free, right?
Yeah, it's free.
Right? And the recommendations we set up, all that information is free too, right?
That's right.
So
that's right.
People, it really is that simple.
Yeah, people do want to be scored. It's interesting. I had the same thoughts. I guess I began using financial scoring almost 4 years ago now, and I remember having the exact same thought. How do I get this into the conversation?
And you pivot it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've got a normal way I do things. How do I get this into my way of talking about it? And I just abandoned what I used to do, and I just say, have you been scored yet? And that's what do you mean scored yet? Well, have you had your financial score yet? Everybody's got a financial score. Do you know yours? No, I don't know. Well, it's much like a credit score, but it's called a financial score. It determines whether you're tax efficient. And that doesn't mean you work with a CPA. CPAs are not necessarily tax efficient.
Yeah, retirement tax efficient.
Right. Yeah. Are we putting too much money in the taxable basket?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your account value compounds, your tax liability compounds.
Correct.
Too, right?
Are we wanting to peel 20% off every dollar we gain? Can we get more efficient there? Well, scoring will tell us that. And are you retirement ready? Not that you're ready to retire, but are you on track, if nothing changes, to do exactly what you're doing now and arrive at 65 ready to retire?
Yeah, and James, just let everybody know that's listening. How many people do you really feel like are on track to retire?
Oh,
you've scored thousands and thousands and thousands.
Yeah, I think the financial scoring team is approaching 100,000 scores as a company. The financial scoring, over 100,000 families have been scored. And I can tell you, no one has gotten above 98. Nobody. Yeah. Nobody that's ever been scored has gotten above 98. And the scoring team does a test whenever there's an update, like the tax code, like we're about to change the tax code again. Right. And there'll be some updates, and that will affect the financial scoring software. There'll be an update there that'll change the algorithm a little bit. And whenever they do that, the way the engineers test it is called Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect has all the right answers in the 27 questions, the exact right answer. And so the way the software is tested is we run Mr. Perfect's answers, and if he doesn't get 100, we know the algorithm's wrong. Yeah. And so that's how it's tested. And I can tell you that's a great way for an agent to evaluate what is the right answer on all these questions, is keep adjusting the answer. And if you're a subscriber, you're an agent who's subscribing, you can hypothetically score yourself over and over and over again and just continue to change the answers to learn what about money. You're going to learn how money works by simply changing the answers to try to get the perfect score. And I would challenge any agent who's a subscriber to try to get the perfect score, because that will teach you, first of all, you know what you're looking for if you can do that. Yeah. You know exactly the answer you're looking for. And so I would want every agent who's using the software to seek 100 in each sub-score and the overall score. And I think that will teach them precisely what we're looking for with a client. And so they'll know when they hear the answer. They don't even have to look at the number. They'll know when they hear the answer. Oh, that's not going to be good.
Yeah.
That's a red flag answer.
Yeah, I'd say majority of the time when I'm talking to people and scoring them, most people are pretty good on debt to income subscore.
Yeah.
Most people are pretty good. They don't really have they don't lack capital to deploy.
Yeah,
They
there's
have
a
plenty of
delta
capital to
between
deploy.
the income and the outflow.
Taxes is huge. There's so many folks that as their balances compound, their tax liability compounds as well, and they do not know how to effectively store and grow assets tax shelter.
They're
how to
not
access
aware
their
of
tax
that.
shelter.
They think the 401k is somehow some type of tax-favored program.
Yeah.
And it's not. It's actually a tax delayed program.
Mm-hmm.
You're in business with the Internal Revenue Service if you have a 401k.
Yeah.
When it's time to withdraw the money, it's the test of the account. When the accumulation phase is easy. It's the distribution phase where we learn what you actually set up.
Right.
And it's in the distribution phase we learn about Uncle Sam.
What you're going to live on.
Exactly. And the way the IRS works, the whoever you got the account with, it doesn't matter who it's with, Vanguard, Fidelity, Schwab, wherever you've got the account, the IRS does not allow them to mail you the money. They have to mail the IRS their money first. Then you get the residue,
Yeah.
which could be half.
We don't even know what it is.
You do not know until the tax code
Until that
is
year.
set for that
Yeah,
year
exactly.
off into the future. So I don't know why we've got all these folks so excited about IRAs and 401ks when they're literally delaying the consequences to an unknown date, to an unknown outcome.
But that's an area you'll uncover all the time. Another big area of opportunity
Yeah.
to uncover more capital is one of the questions. How much are you contributing, James, over your 401k match?
Right.
People forget to ask that question
Over the match.
all the time.
That's right.
The best part about the K plan is the match.
Yes.
You're getting money that's not yours.
That's right.
Bonus into your plan.
That's right.
Does it have a vesting schedule? Yes. Do you own it? Not really, right?
Yeah.
But you are still getting match money. If you stay
Yes.
at that company, you will get that money at some point.
But every dollar above the match should be deployed in your own personal plan.
In a private tax sheltered account.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. But these are things that the algorithm knows and will score you accordingly that most agents don't know.
And I wanted to also mention when it comes to having a perfect score, it's not like that just because we want to just do all this business and there's always something that needs to be done, right? And it's not real that they're not on track. Like they really could be perfect, but the score is manipulated to make them lower than they would be.
Not a chance.
That's just the reality of it.
Yeah, the math is the math.
Yeah.
You really you cannot manipulate the math based on how these answers come out. It's going to tell you whether you're in good shape or bad shape.
And there's so many enemies of money that we look to basically deploy strategies to help protect people from that most people just don't have the precision with their plan to properly execute on.
For sure. And they don't know. And
Yeah.
they're busy. Let's face it. We're dealing with folks with other professions.
Right.
They're busy. They're not really focused on how money works. Now, every now and then I'll run across somebody who's really smart with money and really good, and they love the scoring.
Yeah.
They really love the test of the scoring.
But was their score perfect?
No, I've not seen anything, and I didn't do the 98. One of our other agents found the 98, but a 98 is rare air. That's somebody who's really got their estate plan in order.
The real estate?
Real estate
plays a big role in someone's
positive
score.
cash flow versus negative cash flow in real estate. They're maxing out the tax advantage of their life insurance instead of just owning life insurance for the death benefit. They're maxing out the tax
There's nothing
advantages.
permanent.
It's a permanent plan instead of a temporary plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to find somebody who's really got all that together.
Yeah. Yeah, of course.
I'd like to score Dave Ramsey.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
I'd like to score Susie Orman. I'd like to score some of these geniuses out there who pontificate on radio and podcasts about how brilliant they are and what you ought to be doing. They call in with what you ought to be doing with your debt and your money. I'd love to score those folks.
Yeah.
And I think I would suggest strongly.
What are the odds Dave Ramsey has a permanent life insurance plan?
I would say Dave Ramsey has term insurance, and I would also say Dave Ramsey's score is going to be lower than he thinks it is.
Yeah, I would agree. All right. Well, fantastic. I wanted to ask you, because we've talked about a lot about what this does for the client.
Yeah.
What does this do for the agent? Does it, obviously I talked about it helps out with the sales process. It helps not delay
Yeah.
commissions. It helps not delay recommendations.
Yeah.
Helps quicken that process, right? Which is better for you, better for your team, et cetera. But what does it do for scale? What does it do for agents?
It's great.
What
Great
does it do?
question. It's really a good question. You have two choices in a business like this. You can simply be a personal producer where you come in and write business and take great care of clients. And you can have a beautiful client experience with the scoring and the AI and go happy into the future and probably make close to 7 figures a year. You can do that here. But the opportunity is bigger than that. The opportunity here is to actually do that and build a team that does that. Now, these are rare folks. Now, the opportunity is available for everybody, but the folks who can actually pull it off are rare. And so this tool for those folks, this is basically an enhancement in their hands because they now, let's say you're the leader. You have a desire to build a massive organization. You're going to have hundreds of leaders and thousands of agents reporting to your organization. Well, in order to train them, the thousands of agents, you're going to either rely upon other licensed agents to train them the way they learn to do it, or you're going to have a scoring system, a needs analysis, so that everybody's trained identically so it can be perfected.
Yeah, replicatable.
Yes.
Which is the hardest part about building a team, really.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that draw a bunch of people into their organization, but they cannot replicate them themselves.
No, because the communication skills are limited in all of us. The idea that you could take your chip and just pass it around and hope that 8,000 people could possess what you've spent years possessing, it's an impossibility. So when you have a cheat sheet or a hack like scoring software, it allows you to put in the hands of the newest person and the oldest person and everyone in between. You can perfect, pick up speed and scale as you're trying to grow your organization. And you're growing it in the area where the cash register exists. You're not growing it in how to hand out awards. You're not scaling the other ideas that can be learned. You're growing it where the cash register exists. The cash register is when we're moving money from the client into institutions and paying a commission. That's where the cash register is. So if you're not going to scale that part of it, I don't know how you'll ever get big.
Yeah, of course.
I mean, the gifted communicators who are in this space, and I happen to be blessed to be one of them. There are many great communicators. Okay, we could go through and name Ed Milet, great communicator. Patrick Bet-David, great communicator. And there's hundreds of others. There's not thousands.
Right.
There's hundreds of others. Great communicators. These great communicators have communicated long enough, strong enough, over time in a replicatable way. They got enough people to follow their lead. If those same great communicators had this tool and communicated with precision the use of that tool, it would have been bigger.
Yeah,
it would have been more profitable. It would have grown faster. And so that's the opportunity we have at Real Financial for an agent, is the opportunity is no longer limited to what you do with a client. It's what you can do with agents as you build your agency.
Yeah. Yeah. And being able to replicate that process using scoring tool is really powerful. Okay, this is kind of a sidebar, but for yourself, right? When you built the 8,000 man team, right? If you had financial scoring, what would that have been?
You know, we're guessing, but I would say it could have been 10x.
Yeah.
Because the hardest part for me, and that's why this tool got developed, the hardest part for me was transferring, even no matter how good of a communicator you are, it's hard to be with 8,000 people.
Right.
You're relying upon,
especially back then,
brochures.
Right.
You're relying upon, hopefully they come to the next event.
Right.
Hopefully they come to a training seminar. And whoever's speaking at the training seminar, are they a great communicator? I don't know. Maybe not. So you just can't get to all 8,000.
Right.
So you end up with outlets, if you will. Each agent who's licensed is like an outlet of a store. Each outlet is somewhat damaged in their ability to replicate what the master copy is. If the master copy, which is you, is worth duplicating because it's perfect in every way, and you're about to turn the copy machine on times 1,000, well, every time you run a copy, the toner gets weaker.
Yeah.
The light inside the machine gets weaker. And when you get down to that 900th copy, I'm pretty sure it's not going to look as good as the one you've got sitting right up on top of the glass.
The master.
The master copy, number one, has to be perfect in its look before you put it onto the glass. And then you've got to constantly be working on that equipment to make sure it's replicating that master copy, or you get diluted over time. And I'm sure my 8,000 man army was diluted at the lowest level.
Yeah.
The people that report directly to the master copy, they're pretty good. They're pretty good. They've got frequency, they've got access, they've got, accountability, they've got discipline, they've got the things necessary to be close to the master copy. But the further you get away, the more diluted that copy becomes.
Yeah.
This tool helps you avoid dilution and helps the master copy be replicated. You may find folks far better than you if you've got a tool like this, because they'll grab it and run in a way you may not have thought of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
of course. I'm glad we got to talk about this today. I know this is extremely valuable to all the folks that are listening to this, especially for not only clients, right?
Yeah.
But also someone that's adding this service to their sales process.
Yeah.
And finally, someone that's building a massive organization. It's an extremely valuable solution for
sure.
all those folks.
For sure. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Glad to be on. Hope you guys got some value from this. This is not something that we can just not use. This is an extremely valuable tool.
Yeah.
And thankfully, we have it in-house here at Real Financial, and it's something that separates us from other organizations. So
Good.
Thank you for being on here, talking about this with us.
Yeah, you got it.
And we'll see you on here again.
Very good. Thank you.